I'm calling the meeting of the CPC to order at 5:31. We would like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please, if you have a flag around. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United
States of America,
To the
to the republic
States
and
one and under God,
indivisible
with liberty
and
and
justice
for
for
all.
all. The chair's announcement: this meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts March 28, 2025 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 30A, Section 20, allowing remote and hybrid meeting options for public bodies through June 30th, 2027. This meeting is being recorded. I'd like to open the regular meeting. The first item is approval of the minutes of December 11th, 2025. All received the minutes. Do I have a motion, or do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second, and John Bell.
I have a couple of corrections.
Just 1 second.
Forgot.
Tim Gillespie had his hands up. Deborah. Tim?
Oh,
Mic is not working. Tim, you're muted too.
I don't have his picture on there. I can't see him. Tim, are you muted?
He's
I
holding
can
up.
see him and he's muted.
He's holding up cards for us to read.
I can see him, but yeah.
Can't unmute.
Oh, we cannot? Oh, no. Okay.
Okay.
there might be too many people on the meeting to
No,
carry.
no, no.
Doesn't
Okay,
matter.
we'll go to Deborah. Deborah?
Okay, I just had a couple of corrections on the minutes. Can I do those now?
Go ahead.
Okay, so there was the tennis discussion, the tennis courts discussion. Let me see what page that is. I think the minutes said that I had met with Mark Schmid regarding the tennis, and I actually met with Martha Sullivan, not Mark Schmid. Just want to find the right page.
I
Mark and
had
I-
the same question, and
Yeah.
I was embarrassed to ask because it would mean I couldn't remember that it had happened.
We didn't meet.
So I didn't want to admit my senility had
No,
gotten worse.
Okay, is that,
Martha and I met, not Mark. So I think it was just maybe the recording didn't pick
is
it up
that the
correctly.
only correction, Deborah?
The other correction I have is on the same topic on the tennis. It said that the fields were in accordance with USA, and I think it meant to be USTA. Martha can correct me on that, but I'm pretty sure they meant USTA.
That's correct, Deborah.
Okay. That was the only corrections I had.
Maria, did you get those? I don't see Maria. Maria?
Yep, I got it.
Okay. Tim, you
Yep.
still have your hands up?
Tim's still muted, so this meeting will
What is
go by a
that?
lot quicker.
Actually, I think
Tim,
he's not.
Tim, if you
Oh,
can
he is.
hear, why don't you go off and come back on?
Oh, see, the mic doesn't say, he doesn't have a mic there, so you should, Mike, Tim, say something.
He's there. I don't know what the issue is.
I think he's working on it. That's why he took the mic off.
Yeah, the mic, that's right. So the icon disappeared.
In mine, he's still there. He's still,
Yes.
okay. Maybe we can come back to this later. We can come back at the end of the meeting and review this. For now, we do have a motion and a second on the floor. Why don't you rescind those?
I'll
Who made the
rescind the second.
motion? Oh, Tim, there's Tim. Tim,
We heard him briefly, apparently.
we need Tim.
I think if he logs back out and then logs back in,
Yeah.
he should be able to make that work.
Yeah, Tim, log out and log back. Okay, all right. Could I have rescinding the motion in the second, please? Who made the motion?
I think I did, Hugh Morton.
And the second?
I'll rescind the second, John Bell.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I am closing the regular meeting and opening the public hearing to discuss projects forwarded by CPC to the public hearing for recommendation to town meeting in 2026.
Do you need a motion to open the public hearing?
Go ahead.
I move that we open the public hearing.
The second, please. Any
I'll
second?
I'll second Hugh Morton.
Hugh Morton, second, okay. I'll call for, is there any discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
Mark,
Mark Schmidt, aye.
John,
John Bell, aye.
Deborah,
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Tim Gillespie is not here. Betty, aye. Dale, are you around?
I am. Dale Weber, aye.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. the
Phil
first-
Weinberg, aye.
Oh, Phil is here. Okay. Phil Weinberg. Good. We're all here. So, Tim Payton. The first item on the agenda is the Westport Affordable Borough Housing Trust Housing Office Rehabilitation and Land Acquisition for $300,000. We had this covered in the last meeting extensively. There are some questions out there that we would like to cover, and a couple of things I'd like to say. I think we could begin that way, easier than having you redo the whole thing, Craig.
That would be helpful.
The first, I think Deborah had questions.
I think Deborah was off the call by the time I got on last time.
She was.
Yes, my internet connection failed right while Leonardi was presenting, so I ended up having to see the recording to see what was said at the meeting.
Okay.
And of course, I read the minutes as well. I guess my only question really is about the follow-up that was done with the Housing Trust. There was some talk about getting the company that did the report to the town on the master plan. It's called the Comprehensive Municipal Building Study, and they came out with a plan. And there was someone who talked to the Housing Trust about having them do a revision for that plan so that there could be a piece of that incorporated with a housing component where you would take the existing conditions, whether it's the water or the septic limitations, and work backwards to how many units of affordable housing could possibly be built as part of that master plan, that huge project. And my understanding was that there was agreement that that could be done by RGB, and if they had some funding from the Housing Trust to amend their project, they could do that. And I believe Thrasher was bullish on that idea, that he was amenable to having some housing as part of that plan. And then I read and heard what Leonardi said at the meeting, and it wasn't consistent with what my understanding was about the interest in housing at the high school site. He said there was no interest in a small project, and he defined 30 units as a small project, and therefore it wasn't useful. So I don't understand why housing isn't being considered by the Housing Trust.
It has been, but the problem is it has not been considered recently by the long-term building committee. So this is a pass the buck situation. So I don't want to go into detail, but we have been meeting with the planning board recently. We've had discussions about some potential open spaces as well as housing areas where the housing was being developed for market rate, and there's a potential to add affordable and
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Tim.
We hear him.
so
You can hear me?
Yes,
so my position, I wasn't there at the point when the priorities shifted away from housing towards the reuse of municipal buildings and similar type structures. We have on almost an annual basis brought this forward. We also understand that some of the properties that were under the consideration by RGB did not fit into, I think, the expectation that we could do something with 30 units or more. And as a result, would we consider something that was at a larger scale, certainly larger than what we did with Habitat for Humanity a year ago, but not quite as large as what we did with community builders in 2010 and through that period of time.
Okay, I think there might be a misunderstanding on what the potential amendment to the study would be, because the idea was not to scrape all the great work they did and not have these other uses, but to have a both and situation. So that you have not only the community space, the recreation space, yoga rooms and all these other great things for the community and fields, but in the middle part of the building, that would be earmarked for housing, and you'd back into the number, you'd back into what could it sustain, what could it support based on water and other kinds of things and time of use and that sort of thing. So it was it wasn't a zero-sum game kind of thing where other things had to drop off in order to accommodate the housing. It was like, how much housing could fit into the existing plan they came up with? And that conversation did happen with several people, is my understanding. And I didn't know if anything was followed up. And when I read what Leonardi said, it sounded like it was set aside, that there was a conclusion and it was not followed up. So that's what my question is there follow-up before this master plan goes before the board and before the town? Because there is still time.
There is still time. I agree with you. I think there's some process issues that when the long-term building committee, and I full disclosure, I sit on that committee as well. I am a relatively new member, and not in a leadership capacity, so I play a different role in the Affordable Housing Trust than I do on the long-term building committee. But in both committees, I serve as a select board's representative to them. And so I have to accept responsibility. So when the committee decided, when the RBG gave us a menu of choices for a variety of things, the menu did not include, for their study, the affordable housing component. But as you pointed out, within, there was sort of a campus-like structure, community structure, where you went from a one big 125, 150,000 square foot building to a couple of smaller buildings, which would the diverse types of functions and that you outlined. I think that does provide us an opportunity to reopen consideration of that. I think it also means that we need to also take a second look at septic technology and what is the capacity of the grounds and buildings for housing. Because when you do build housing, as you know, the septic needs of housing are a lot greater than they are for municipal offices and schools. And so the density of use is such. But it's also a constantly evolving use of technology. And a few of us I've met with a company out of New Bedford called Aqua Point. I happen to be fairly good friends with the founder. We've circulated some ideas about ways that they might be able to advise us. We're not saying necessarily they would be doing it, but they do have subject knowledge, expertise that could say, let's take a fresh look at what is the capacity of the grounds, because under any realistic scenario for expansion of water and sewage in the town of Westport, I don't see it extending to the old high school site.
Could I interrupt here? I think that where this has a role in this meeting tonight is that in the request for $200,000 for land acquisition, I think that it should be broadened. And I have actually talked with the Community Preservation Coalition director about the wording of the previous land acquisition, and it says that this money can be used also for pre-development and pre-construction cost. And he agreed that that means it could be used for projects which are less than 30. It can be any number of projects. I think tonight that we should add, and Deborah, I think you've thought about this, we should add to to this request that the Affordable Housing Trust will be working with the planning board to implement the housing production plan. I know that there are members of the Affordable Housing Trust who want to do that.
Yes.
That would be one part of it. And the other part would be to expand the use of this particular request of $200,000 for the purposes of looking into the possibilities of there being housing in this in the old high school. As far as what I understand is that the long-term building committee wants to go ahead and put their request on the ballot. Isn't that correct, Craig? Or
Yes.
are they waiting, or what's going on there? Because that does impact the Affordable Housing Trust.
And we've had some discussions about the advisability of both within the committee and with some of the inter-committee communications that have occurred about having these parallel paths going on at the same time. It's almost so I'm the one saying we've got 3 months to tighten up our presentation. If we can, I think it would be a good idea if we can loosen up the language for the request and the recommendation to from you to the town meeting, as well as having the select board weigh in on it. It would, in terms of because we do have a role in recommending on all of these warrant articles as well. And then, we can decide, depending upon where we think we have the greatest opportunity for short-term activity, to tailor our presentation at town meeting towards that.
Let me get the questions that are out there, and we'll come back. Mark, you had a question or comment?
Actually, I think Hugh's hand was up before me, so I don't want to jump in front of him.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay.
That's all right. Plenty of time.
All right, thank you. Well, first of all, in respect to the planning board's interest in working with the housing authority on housing, I mean, there's no question that the board has been very interested in the whole question of getting more housing in Westport. And so there was some, when the report from the Long-Term Building Committee came out with the proposal to develop the old high school into a community campus. And as you've just said, there was no housing component included. So the board, they invited members of the Long-Term Building Committee to come, and so we could have a discussion about it. That didn't materialize, but I know that that our chairman did meet with the planning board, with the select board, Greg, you recall. And you're right, there was a discussion about, well, if we introduce housing now, or if we go out and try to get a proposal to convert that building into housing, then is that going to undercut the enthusiasm for the campus proposal, the campus idea, the community campus idea? And so I think from my reading of your deliberations, Craig, at the select board level, they sort of thought that it was better to let sleeping dogs lie and not push ahead with introducing the housing idea at this stage, and just to take to the voters this proposal for a community campus.
That's what my understanding was too. Craig, is that your understanding?
My understanding, I was not 100% in support of it, but I also recognized that, I think that the majority of the select board wants to not own or feel responsible for the former high school, and there's some interest in trying. I think there was some that wanted to sell the property, thought we would do well, or create a vacant piece of land that you could do development on. So I think within the board is not enough. I don't think there is a consensus of what the highest and best use of the property is, based upon.
Okay, so basically, Deborah, let me ask for Hugh to make his comment, and then Tim, and we'll get back to you. Hugh?
Yeah, the thing that is missing to me so far, the various studies and plans of what might be done, septic carrying, this and that. I haven't seen anything where there's even back of the envelope of what it would cost, A, and B, where it might come from. So maybe I missed something in an appendix somewhere, etc. But I don't have any trouble with people estimating what the septic carrying would be and so forth. But it seems to me, unless there is some order of magnitude of what the investment would be and where it would come from, that it's spinning wheels. If the town is going to have to vote on something, it's certainly not going to vote in a pig and a poke. To the borrowing, I don't know what it would be, but that's really my point. That's my point.
Okay, Tim Gillespie?
I'm just wondering if anybody can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Deborah? Can't hear you.
Yeah, my understanding is the cost came down quite a bit from, and originally it was around 80 or 90 million, and then it came down to the $40 million range, and it's still no housing component in either of those plans. And a couple of people that I spoke with thought that there's the plan that's on the table right now, where there's a multitude of different distinct buildings. There was still room in the middle of the campus to build new housing, or to take the center of the high school down to its edges so they could meet this thing called the stretch code, which is a new code that has to be met for housing. And they would just skinny down the housing piece to just the center. And that would be on its own funded by a developer who would come in and do a proposal. So it could reduce some of the overall cost that the town might have to vote on, down from where it is now to even a lower number. And the other benefit of that is to have multiple constituencies voting on this thing. So you have the seniors, you have the, council on
Right.
aging folks, you've got all the different constituencies who have a stake in it because something's there for each of them. So it has a higher chance of passing. That was the theory that was said to me, and it sounded pretty good. So I didn't know if there was a way to carry that water to the select board. I know they don't want to derail the vote. I understand that. I've read all the articles in the newspapers. They want to stay on the track that they're on because this thing has been a victim of, study after study after study for years, and they want to get to a final decision by the town. So that's totally understandable. My understanding, though, is that RGB could add this amendment to what they already have done in time for this to be considered at the final town vote. That was what I was told. And, if that can be done, great. If it can't, fine. But I think Betty's point about expanding the use of the funds that CPC grants to this group is a good one, because if there is pre-development money to add this amendment and pay for it, then they could continue this work before the vote gets taken. And maybe there could be a housing component, which would reduce the cost of the whole project.
Yes, I think that we've spent a lot of time with this, and what really is before us tonight is the amount of money that's going to go to the Affordable Housing Trust for what purposes. And we can't decide if anything at all is going to happen. We just have to give them a chance. And so what I'm asking for, and Craig, you should be asking for this actually,
Yep.
is that we expand the definition of the land acquisition part, which is already in there, but expand it that it can be specifically that this money can be used for pre-development,
Definition.
pre-construction studies for properties that are less than 30 acres. I mean, 30 units.
I think if you made that adjustment, we're pretty much in sync, because we've always considered pre-development cost as part of the package.
Yes. And secondly, that I would really like that you will, in cooperation with the planning board on the housing production plan.
I don't
All
see
I
it.
wanted to say, Betty, was
Hugh, go ahead.
I object to expanding the definition, et cetera. But the town does not have the money to support it. The state has spent most of its money on Biden's illegals, where Massachusetts is not exactly looking forward to federal largesse at this point. So this does no harm to expand the possibility. I just think there has to be, if the town is going to be asked to borrow, the only way it could deal with this in any way, then there's going to have to be dollars and cents, because you can't just authorize borrow whatever might be necessary. So
Yes.
I guess I'm wasting my breath. I'm just saying, it seems to me, unless there is some fairly concrete idea of what it would cost and where it would come from, that a lot of effort being put into nothing that's ever going to happen. No harm expanding what you're talking about. That's simply paperwork.
Mark?
Yeah, well, I don't want to prolong that, because I think we should go ahead with the vote or the recommendation on this proposal. But just FYI, in terms of just one last note on the whole issue of the high school reuse, one of the planning board suggestion was that it be put out, an RFP go out to housing developers, many of them are around and do routinely take old school buildings
Yes.
and bring them into housing. And so it doesn't involve any money from the town. The town is actually just taking this, disposing of it, or they can give a long-term lease of the develop, whatever it is. But it won't cost the town anything, but it gets us the housing that we're looking for. So
Okay. But Tim Gillespie? No, you're still on there.
I didn't, oh,
You
sorry.
could lower your hand, please. Okay, so do I have a motion? Deborah, do you want to try?
I move that we expand the use of the proposed funding for the Affordable Housing Trust to include pre-development specifically, in addition to the other elements they're already asking for.
And for units less than 30.
Yes,
Less than 30 units.
okay.
Is there a second?
Dale Weber, second.
Any discussion? Okay, so we're talking about the total of 300,000. 200,000 with these expanded terms, which Maria's gotten. I'd like to take a vote. Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
Mark,
Mark Schmidt, aye.
John,
This is to move it on to move it to.
no, this is to add to the wording to the land acquisition portion.
Well, this is just for the amendment.
It's for the amendment.
Okay, yeah, aye. John Bell.
Phil,
Aye. Phil Weinberg, aye.
Tim,
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Deborah,
Deborah
She-
Chialfi, aye.
Dale,
Dale Weber, I.
Betty, that's unanimous. Okay, so thank you very much. And we will, when we adjourn, we will make a decision on all of the projects. And we will let you all know tonight.
Okay, and if you could do that, and then if somebody can also get the wording for this motion, assuming
Yes.
you do positively recommend, then I can
We'll
put it,
get,
I'll bring
we'll
it
get it.
to the next
we'll
meeting.
get it for you. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
The American Legion Hall, Sanford School, ADA compliant handicap ramp for 32,500.
Oh, come on.
I believe that it's Mari May who will be representing the Sanford School.
Yeah,
Um,
hear me?
Just one second, Mari.
Okay,
There were a couple of things missing in the past, which Tim Gillespie has. He's going to put up. It isn't
Can you
this.
see it now? I'm presenting. Can you see?
You don't know. We see your request for funds. I
Yeah.
don't see the.
What do you want to see?
We want to see that document that was sent to you yesterday that showed the drawing and the use of the materials, which
Well,
Deborah sent to you.
There's Brian
Yes.
Valcourt's quote.
And then,
That's the Commission on Disabilities statement. And this is the imagery.
yes, but there was another image and information that Deborah sent yesterday.
It was a PDF that
PDF.
had images of a deck as a representation of the type of materials and then a list of materials that would be used.
Was that sent by Maria or
Sent by me to you and Maria and Betty.
let me find it?
I could send it again right now.
Okay, in the meantime, Mari, did you have something you were about to say?
first of all, can you hear me?
Yes?
Good. I just was going to say that, you, the chair, had requested 3 items from us following Paul's presentation to the CPC on December 11th. And those 3 things were the letter, and second of all, more detailed graphic design, which Tim has provided, and third, more discussion on the cost. And you all have these documents. I just saw Tim present them. I saw them flash by. Do you want me
Mari,
to keep talking?
Mari, we have it, the third item was what the cost, what were the costs? You just gave us a number, 32,000. We wanted to know the materials, the type of materials and the design of the materials, and that's what Tim is looking for right now.
Yeah,
I'm
looking for it
I have-
I've got it. I've just got to put it in a position to see it.
Okay,
But what I have is what Brian gave us. Brian Valcourt gave us. It was a cost estimate for $35,000, which included a breakdown between materials and labor.
No, but you also, since then, through a lot of hard work by several of us, we now know what the materials are. We know what they're going to look like,
Okay,
and we know the cost.
okay.
So here it is.
Yeah, those are the materials we used last year on the on the first CPC grant that we got. And we put a deck and a new stairway on the south side of our American Legion post. And we used the railings are of historic design, and that's what we intend to use on the ramp on the north side of the building.
Could you scroll down a bit, Tim, because the materials are, no, the other way. Scroll up, I should say.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The materials will include Inex railings, historic reproduction rating clad in white, that never need painting. The ramp will be constructed of gray composite material similar to Trex. The material has a wood grain non-slip surface that does not need to be painted, and the fasteners will be hidden. This information is also sent to the Historical Commission. The Historical Commission, as you know, previously in the last meeting, said that they approve this. So this is now for our records, which the CPC had not seen before. You're also saying, Mari, that the amount has increased from 32,000 to 35,000,
I
correct?
would like to revise that number further. In conversation today with a number of the members of the American Legion and our executive committee, we had a couple members who were concerned about the existing deck, and that if you had a wheelchair with a person and a person pushing it, that the weight of all three of those things might collapse the front deck. I talked to Brian Valcourt about this. He said he would come take a look at it. He was hoping to get something in writing by this afternoon. I never got anything, so I cannot present it. But he suggested adding $5,000 to the $35,000 request for a bottom line of $40,000. But I don't have any documentation on that. It's just oral.
So you're asking us to approve something without any documentation?
I'm just giving you an update of our current thinking, and ultimately that will be put into a request, but I don't have any documentation right now.
Tim?
I'm just putting up this picture of what is there now.
Yes.
And that railing that is on that deck now is that Radiance rail, which is the same thing that Deborah had presented. And that's what I included with the design of this ramp. I had assumed that this old deck surface had already been replaced, but you're suggesting that it has not, and that it's not in great shape.
I'm suggesting, first of all, we moved that building over from across the street 90 years ago. And it's obvious that that deck has been rebuilt since then, because it's not wood. It is composite material, but it's older composite material. And what I'm suggesting, or what I'm conveying to you, is concern of a couple of members of our executive committee on the American Legion, is that that end of that deck, which will be where the ramp begins, needs to be looked at and maybe solidified. I don't think Brian Valcourt went into that issue. As you can see, there's some kind of grading, I don't know what you call those crisscross things.
Lattice.
Lattice, yes, that's the word. There is lattice there that really has to be removed to be able to study it. And in discussions with Brian Valcourt, briefly over the phone, he said he'd take a look at it and come up with something. And he has not done that in print. documentation, but he did say, I said, should we add another 2,500 to make our request 3,750? He said, add another 5, which would make the request for 40,000. I mean, I'm not, you know, Tim, do you have any comment on this? I'm not a contractor, you know?
I
Architect, but you know, I'm not.
I know that contractors resist spending a lot of time figuring out what things are going to cost, and they like shooting from the hip and shooting high usually. What I would suggest is that a number be put on this extra part that would easily cover it, but I think we need to consider, and I don't know how Brian would feel about this, but I would like to have this project built on a time and materials basis. He determined what he's going to charge an hour for his labor, and he give us invoices of all the materials that are being put into the project. And that way the project is thoroughly quantified. We know exactly what's going into it, and he would get, you know, whatever he marks up on materials that he buys, that's a reasonable thing, whether it's 10% or whatever, and an hourly rate that he would charge. And I think that that other deck needs to blend in with this new ramp system so it doesn't look like a patch job. It's not the most fun, but the Radiance rails that you see there can be dismantled, in which they would have to be in order to do that deck. But it's not a huge project. I mean, you could get those railings off of there in a matter of hours and then rip up the old deck and throw the new one down in conjunction with building the wheelchair ramp. So I don't think it would be a huge expense. It would take some time, but I would go along with adding money to the project, but with the understanding that the way the project is going to be built would be time and materials.
That's the way that, Tim, that's the way that normally Brian estimates. He gives you time and materials. But he doesn't say the time, he says the cost of his cost directly.
Remember that this estimate from Brian is just that. It's an early estimate. This is a project that still has to go out to bid. And I assume Brian would bid on it, but we have to open it up to others. When we did the bathroom renovation, I contacted 8 contractors. I got 4 who were interested, 2 who eventually bid, and Brian was the lowest bidder. But going forward, we have to do that whole process again for this ramp project.
See, the difficulty really that I'm having here right now is that this is the final meeting on projects, and you're introducing a whole new aspect of the project without numbers, without backing. That is something we have to consider. Can we do that? Hugh, do you have a question?
Well, that was basically what I was going to say, that can we do it subject to confirmation, subject to detailed estimates? I'm not sure we can in terms of the timing you mentioned. And I'm troubled to do it. It isn't really an estimate. It's I guess it might be kind of when we don't know what it needs to be done at all. So
Yeah.
I'm just reluctant to do it without really knowing what the project is.
John?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. We don't know what's under there, so we don't know what if anything else needs to be replaced under that deck to support that weight.
Mark?
Well, yeah, I was going to comment. So if the deck, when was this deck built? Was it fairly recently?
You want a wild guess here. I would say, because they use composite materials,
Yeah.
I would say it was maybe 20 years ago.
Well, I mean, I don't know if
It was not done with the exterior work done last year. It's older than that.
That's right. Tim, did you have another?
Well, I would suggest that if that deck was built within the past 20 years, it would have had to pass the review of the building inspector and comply with the code. So I would suggest the structural framework would have to be adequate to support new decking materials. I can't imagine that you would have to do any reconstructing of that deck. Should have been built with pressure treated lumber and probably built with either 2x8s or 2x10s, 16 inches on center. And if the building inspector let that slip by and it isn't adequate, I would be very surprised.
You can find that out by asking the building inspector about it. Mark, do you have a question?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was trying to get around to that point that if they pulled a building permit and there's even a drawing on file, you could check and see what the structural, members are. But I would suspect that if it did get approved by the building inspector, just as Tim said, it should pass muster. I want to bring up one other question if we have questions about this design. And maybe Tim, you accounted for this, but I didn't see it on the drawing. If you go back to your sketch in there, because it does have some bearing on the cost of it. And if this is accounted for, fine, but there's supposed to be handrails. Massachusetts.
Yeah, the secondary handrail, I didn't have time to draw that in, but that is intended to be, and Brian knows about the secondary handrail that would go sort of halfway up on the inside. Whether you'd have to do both sides or not, I'm not sure what ADA compliance requires. But in the course of drawing this up and multiple communications with Brian, he is aware of the need for that secondary rail. I threw this together very quickly. It took me a long time, but I managed to get it out in time to bring to this meeting. And, structurally, I think it's covered. But in terms of the secondary handrail, that would definitely have to be there. In fact, Brian was telling me that what he had done on another project was he built the secondary handrail out of wood. And that's something that could be done, and it would probably be cheaper than having it made out of welded pipe, which is normally the way they do it.
Well, Massachusetts, though, requires two handrails. The upper one is anywhere from 34 to 38 inches above the ramp, and then there's a secondary one below that's 18 to 20 inches. And then you have to have two handrails, one up, one above the other, and they have to be on both sides of the ramp. And you have to have a clear distance of 48 inches between those handrails. So I don't know if any of that's been taken into account. I assume it has, but I just want to.
Well, this needs more work than the drawing department, but
well, that may affect the cost of it too. It's my only other point.
it doesn't need a lot. I mean, it's wide enough to right now the way it's drawn, but I don't think the framing, you would need any more framing than I've already indicated there. These are all 2x12s. You could add a couple inches either side if you needed to accommodate those railings. I remember when we did the ramp on the annex, we did have two rails. We had a middle and a top pipe rail. So yeah, the number that Brian has come up with, I suspect is low for what this thing is going to take. But he tends to build stuff and they come through less than other guys do. I just know if my company built this thing, it would be over $35,000. I don't know. I don't know how to go about this. I mean, if this ramp is going to get built, I think the budget needs to get bigger to accommodate the possibility that other builders are going to come in high. If Brian can provide what this needs to be, with all the railings that are required and stay on budget, I think that would be great. But I don't know. It's sort of, this thing has been cobbled together because we haven't had the detail that we need. And this is the closest thing we've got to a detail, and it doesn't even have all the details.
Mari, could I ask you, you said that the ADA, that the Disabilities Commission said it met ADA. On what basis did they say that?
I'll have to conjecture here, but I went and talked with Martin Costa at his house, and I showed him the original drawing from Brian, the pencil sketch that he did. It didn't look very sophisticated. It doesn't have the high art that Tim's drawings have, but it had a lot of detail, and it had a lot of numbers, and it had all the good stuff. You know, you have to have that 1:12 ratio. If you have to rise 70 inches, you have to have 70 feet of ramp, and they knew that, and that's why so Martin and I talked, and then I requested a letter from Martin, and Martin said, it's better if my chairman write it. The chair is Brian Gallagher. And so Martin got Brian to write the letter, I assume, based upon the conversation I had with Martin Costa.
Okay. So we have a dilemma here, guys.
Well, I think that you should listen to Tim here. This project has a lot of momentum right now, and he has a lot of experience. And what we're asking for is another 5,000 up to 40,000. And this is still a project that has to go out to bid. We don't know in the end whether $40,000 will cover this project. I'm hoping it will, because we're working with, Brian, a local contractor who lives very close to the American Legion. He doesn't have to go far to do the work. And I think all that goes into his calculation. Maybe he does bid low. I don't know. Tim knows better than I. But we spent a lot of time on this project. It's obviously a small one for CPC relative to a $300,000 project for the school. And I would just plead with all of you and with Tim, your expert contractor, to approve this project with the $40,000 price tag on it. Otherwise, we have to come back and do this whole thing again next year.
Hugh?
And I'll be 80 years old next year. Maybe you'll be doing with somebody else.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, actually, that's not true.
Hugh, could you had a
Yeah,
question?
We're being asked to approve a project and an increase in cost of a project, which we don't know whether or not it really needs to be done. And that's a little hard
So
to
he
do.
only charges us, so he doesn't charge us the full 40. He charges, 32 or 35.
If there is money available to do the project, somehow or other, costs have a way of accumulating to consume what's available. I'm not making any aspersions about Brian. I'm just saying general principles. If there's 40,000 available, the project is likely to cost $30,000. I think we have to wait until we know what we're talking about. I'm sorry.
Well, then that puts it off for a year, Hugh.
And I'm sorry, but I don't see an option. Others may
Okay.
disagree, of course, but
One of the issues is, there is a possibility that we could extend this discussion until February on this project. My issue is we've extended it, and we keep running up into these issues that, everything wasn't considered. We don't have the documentation. And we've run into that, Mari, in this project the last 2-3 months. Will you have everything like in February? Will you have everything that you need? That's one question. The other question is, can you do the ramp without doing the porch for
Sure.
now.
I mean, it wasn't me that brought up the issue of is the deck solid. It was a couple other members, Tom Flynn, John Tunney. Paul was there. And they just wanted me to talk to Brian about it. And Brian came up with another estimate of $40,000. So I mean,
Well, I'm suggesting that we,
next year or something. I don't
I'm
care.
suggesting that we approve we consider the project as you've presented it. Instead of at 32.5, you have it at 35, but that's not because you're adding anything. It's because you realize that it could be more. You had no contingency in it, so you're asking for 35. Okay, and you can do the porch later. Come back next year for the porch.
Okay.
I'm suggesting that. Now, I have a lot of other people interested. Tim, you're first.
Well, if you look at the framing on that the beginning of the ramp up at the other deck,
Yeah,
the direction of the decking goes longitudinally along the
Yeah.
length of the deck.
yeah.
And I would suggest that you could build this ramp and throw some decking down on that little square landing. And at such time as you want to consider doing the other project, you could take that decking up so that you wouldn't have a butt joint there between the two decks. And then you could do a nice job of redecking that other deck and just have it flow onto that square ramp. So I think you could do this project without doing the other deck and just come back on the other deck another time.
Mark?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that I don't know that, I mean, I'm fine in approving the, this revised request, the $35,000, provided, the American Legion obviously understands the risk that they're taking, that it may be more, but that's not our problem. I think part of the discussion was just to point out that perhaps there are some things that may add some cost here. But if they're eager to get the project approved and get some CPA funding, why not? I mean, why not go ahead with it as presented and they take the risk for any overages?
We can't take the risk. I'll speak as the finance officer of the American Legion, Post 145. We've got a $5,000 budget a year. And if you want to destroy our budget over that $5,000, I plead with you, please not do that.
No, we're saying, Mari, let me see what
You
Deborah
want
has
to put
to
the
say.
risk on,
Just a second, Mari, please.
yeah.
Deborah?
talk
Yeah, I
about
just
the
had a
risk.
question, just a clarification question, because all of the grants that we are making, we're not doing a guarantee that we will cover 100% of anybody's costs. We're basically saying you're proposing this, we will either recommend it or not. So why not just go with what's been proposed that's already been documented? Look, if it changes and it seems like you're not going to know this for a while, they could come back next year for another grant. But I think we only can grant what's been proposed and documented. Otherwise, everybody who's on this docket, they're all under the same rules. And people have to provide the information consistently. Otherwise, are we guaranteeing the cost of something? I don't think so. So we're just going to respond to what's been proposed. And I think that's fair. I don't know if that's ever done in any other way.
We've never done it.
I just want to respond to that because it seems to me one scenario is we approve the 35, which I have no objection to. You go out and get bids which come in at 45. So you say we don't have enough money to do it, so we don't do it. And next year you come back with a revised project taking into account what has happened and ask for 45.
Okay.
It seems to me that that postpones things, but it doesn't require the post to raise money for something if it's insufficient. And I think there was a comment about we don't guarantee that it's going to cover the whole cost, is right on the money. So there's an amount allowed for the project.
Okay.
And if it turns out not to fit, then your option is we find some other funds, probably not true, or we wait and come back with a revision. Why isn't that fair enough?
Well, we will, we would, with the 35,000, if you were to go ahead and approve that, we would put it out to bid.
Yeah,
And
and we'll see what happens.
And if the bids are all above that number, then we just come back again next year. Okay.
We went with the previous project with the Sanford School. There wasn't enough money to do what you had hoped to do. And they also, some of it was diverted to the pavement, which we had not expected. So I think that there's a little lesson in here. You should try to get 2 or 3 people to look at the costs and come in for it. But I recommend that we agree to increase the price, the 32,500 to 35,000, because the cost of the wood has gone up, even in this short period. And this is happening in a lot of places. But I do not recommend that we raise it to 40,000.
Okay.
And I'd like a motion to raise it to 35,000 or 40,000 or whatever you all want to do. I'd like a motion from somebody in the committee.
I move.
I
to go
move
with
to
35,000.
have.
Wait a
the
second, wait a
grant
second.
be-
You
Sorry.
speaking, Deborah, go ahead. You?
I say, well, I move to increase the amount to 35,000.
Mhm.
For the project as
second.
presented.
Yes.
So second was Deborah.
Deborah,
Any discussion, further discussion? Okay, we'll have a vote. You,
Hugh Morton, aye.
Mark,
Mark Schmidt, aye.
John,
John Bell, aye.
Phil,
Bill Weinberg, aye.
Tim Gillespie,
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Deborah,
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Dale,
Dale Weber, I.
Betty Slade, aye. So we've raised it to 35,000, and we will consider whether or not we'll support that in the regular portion of this meeting. Thank you, Mari.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. The Bell Schoolhouse. Clapboard repair and replacement. I believe Jenny O'Neill is here. Hello? Jenny is here.
I see her, but she's got her mic muted right now. Maybe she's gonna.
Jenny, you're muted. Jenny?
Maybe she stepped away.
Can you hear me?
Jenny? Yes, we hear you now.
Okay. You can still hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so this is an application for $49,000 to repair the clapboards at the Bell School and to repair flashing over windows and doors and over the bulkhead. And this is part of a multi-phase project to renovate the Bell School. And once we repair the clapboards, we can move ahead and paint the exterior. And that, in theory, is the last phase of the Bell School project. And I did want to mention we have an open house this on Saturday, January 17th, 10 till 1. So if you haven't come to see the Bell School, you are very welcome to come by then.
Okay, so since the last meeting, we've clarified for sure that this can be a change in order. What is the word? Order, change
Change.
order. That is a possible, it's a small part of the whole project. That's one of the important things, and it is allowed around the state to do this. So you will not need to go out to bid.
Okay, that's good.
So we don't need to vote on this because there's no changes. We can just move on unless somebody has any questions. So it'll be repair and replacement,
That's right.
actually. Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Jenny.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
The next item is the Westport Land Conservation Trust, Drift Road property. I believe it's 311 for $300,000. There's been some clarification since the last meeting, and so Ross Moran is here to speak to us.
Thanks, Betty. So yes, at the last meeting, we were still working with a couple members of the family to agree to that purchase price. We have since had an agreement on that purchase price. And it is in fact 311 Drift Road. Oh, thanks, Tim. Yeah, if you want to, yeah, that map right there, Tim, is a good one. So the property is outlined in red on this particular map. It's on kind of the, as you can imagine, 311 upper portion of Drift Road. It abuts currently a conservation restriction that we hold. And that landowner is interested in donating the land to us longer term, which would be combined with this 28-acre property to become a new public destination property here on Drift Road. This 28-acre property at 311 Drift Road has significant watershed into Kirby Brook, one of our prized cold water fishery resources here in Westport, and a significant ecological resource. It supports native brook trout. Back in 2023, a state biologist found some brook trout at the mouth of Kirby Brook that were of significant size. So it supports a really cool species here in Massachusetts that is pretty rare. In addition to that, the property has an interesting story. The family had an orchard that they supplied some fruit across town in the community. What we would be doing with the property is turning it into a public trail, as well as reviving the orchard on the property as an aesthetic component to it, trying to tell the story of the family like we have in other properties that have an agricultural component. So, you know, we're excited to get this one done. As always, when we partnered with we're grateful for partnering with the CPC on projects in the past. The support from the CPC comes through the purchase of a conservation restriction during the process that will permanently protect the 28 acres into the future, and that will guarantee public access. You know, that conservation restriction protects all of those conservation resources and retires all of the development rights on the property. So if the purchase price is the 1,125, an appraisal will likely come in right around that. The retirement of those rights, all of the rights, the building rights, means that a CR is worth far more than $300,000. The only thing you know that is slightly different than the application would just be that I would request that the town consider co-holding this CR with the Buzzards Bay Coalition as well, as they share expertise in the cold water fishery resource, and they will be scheduled to hold the conservation restriction on the land to the south when we acquire it.
Okay, Hugh.
I guess it's really standard inquiry. Do you have other private funding in part of this acquisition? And if so, who might that be? If it's public.
Yes, so about 300 would come from CPC. Another 300 is a state grant that we'll be applying to for later in the year. And then we currently are in conversation about a lead gift with another party at the moment, which would leave us, you know, a balance of 400 and change to raise. we are usually pretty good at raising private funds. We'll be reaching out to the public about the next month, Hugh, to begin that private fundraising. We have many different conversations going on, and I have a lot of confidence we'd be able to get to that fund.
Well, thank you. So I think I would need to recuse myself on general principles.
Thank you, Hugh. Are there any other questions, comments? Okay.
My only
Nothing-
comment, Betty, is.
Oh, yes, Mark.
Simply that this is yet another very good use of CPA funding. So
Thank
the
you.
importance of preserving property in this town is, along with housing, it really is a priority, and the Land Trust has done a tremendous job.
Phil, do you have anything to say? Phil Weinberg?
No, I think kind of when I said before, the fact that, it's protective of a cold water fishery, I think from a Conservation Commission perspective, makes this not a unique property, but an important property that is definitely worthy of the conservation restriction, because our cold water fisheries are being threatened by a lot of different climatic and developmental stresses, and to be able to protect this one, I think should be a high priority.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
We'll
Betty.
make our
Thank you, Committee.
decisions later. Okay. All right, the Westport Youth Athletic Association, tennis and 5 tennis and 10 pickleball courts interconnected for $400,000. Martha Sullivan, I believe, will speak.
Hi, Betty. I'm here. No update really since our last proposal. Lots of progress. And just to make sure everybody understands, these are 5 mixed-use courts that would be placed in the Westport Youth Athletic Association Sports Pavilion. So great location. We have additional quotes out, but requests for quotes out. Given the holidays, we don't have those responses back. So we don't have new information in terms of financial impact, but we're confident that we can manage the project inside of what we're requesting. The only other thing I would say is you may have seen we've begun our public campaign.
Yes.
So you'll see a press release follow quickly, and we're seeing a lot of enthusiasm and momentum in Westport for this project.
Deborah?
I just want to say I was one of the recipients of that campaign today, and I did make a donation. I thought it was great, Martha. It was a really well done website to explain what's going on. I was just curious, how much have you raised through that campaign?
We have pledges for $100,000 at this point.
That's great.
Yeah. And thank you for the donation. Thank you very much.
Very
I'd like
nice.
to also follow up a question you had, was whether or not the funding would become available immediately, because if we use reserves, and I actually got an answer today. I mean, I got an answer previously from one party, but from the accountant who confirmed, yes, that's the case, that the money becomes available. However, you need to go out to bid. So one would have to, in a case like this, one should get everything ready for the RFP. And then you put that out, and you would get the funds after the fund. You know that the funds will be available as anytime after that.
Terrific. Thank you, Betty. That's great news.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay, we'll decide later. Thank you very
Okay.
much, Martha.
Thank you, committee. Appreciate your help.
The Macomber School Playground Project, $300,500. Ms. Reposa?
Yes, hi, I am here. We do not have any more changes since the last time we presented to the CPC committee. We're in the same spot. They have recommended for CIPC though to move forward to town meeting with the $150,000 request that we did send to them just to help absorb some of the cost of the project.
That's excellent. So you'd have the full amount. Excellent.
Yes, correct.
Are there any questions? Deborah?
Yeah, the only question I have is I was reading again that proposal, and now that you have more funding, would you have the handicap accessibility now for that playground? Which I know some of the parts of it were not accessible to some children because they were dangerous in some way.
Yes.
So is that now handicap accessible, that playground?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any more questions? No? Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Michelle.
We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to close the public hearing, and do I have to have a vote for that? I don't think so. Mark, do I have to have a vote to
Yes,
close?
I move that
Okay.
we close I move that we close the public hearing.
The
Bill
second,
Weinberg, second.
Phil Weinberg, second. Okay, a vote, any discussion? A vote, Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
Mark,
Mark Schmidt, aye.
John,
John Bell, aye.
Phil,
Bill Weinberg, aye.
Tim Gillespie. Tim Gillespie. Deborah,
Tim Gillespie,
Deborah-
aye.
good. Deborah,
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Dale,
Dale Weber, aye.
Betty, aye. Betty Slade, aye. That's unanimous. To resume the regular meeting, I sent you information on available funds, and we do have available funds for all of these projects. So it won't be a question of matter of the ability to pay. It's a question of whether we want to go ahead with these projects as presented. And I am suggesting that I read through the projects, and if you put a hold on it, then we will discuss that. Is that okay with everybody? Any objections?
I just am not gonna get any dinner if I hang out here much longer.
Well, you're gonna
I
have
know,
to
I know.
hang out for this one.
What time at your house, Tim?
Okay,
My wife's threatening to divorce me.
Westport Affordable Housing Trust, 300,000 with the amendment. Historic Preservation, American Legion Hall, Sanford School, 35,000. Bell Schoolhouse, 49,000. Clabbered Repair and Replacement. The Westport Land Conservation Trust, CR on 311 Drift Road, 300,000. The Westport Youth Athletic Association Pickleball and Tennis Courts, 400,000. The Macomber School Playground Project, 300,500. All right. Can we take a vote?
I move we accept those
Just a moment.
proposals.
Deborah had a statement.
Just a quick statement, because we heard from the harbor master last night at the Westport Historical Commission. And Betty, I know you, we talked about him withdrawing his proposal from CPC, which he has now done. That's why he's not on the vote
Yes.
tonight. So I just wanted to let everybody know, as a follow-up, he did get his certificate of appropriateness last night from the Historical Commission, and he's going to be doing his exterior work with CIPC money that he hopes to get. And we approved all the different changes that he wants to make to the exterior of the building. He's not going to lift it right now. He's going to keep it where it is, maybe lift it at a later date. And he's going to try to seek a handicap waiver because he had no plan to do a ramp at this time. Just wanted to give you an update on that.
Okay, excellent. So May I have a motion and a second to approve the projects as read?
I make a motion, we approve it as read.
Tim
I'll
Gillespie,
second that, John Bell.
John Bell, second. Okay, any discussion?
Betty, I think I need to note for the record, that as far as the school is concerned, I am a member of the American Legion, so I'm not active. I don't consider it a conflict, however.
No. Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
Mark,
Mark Schmidt,
Mark?
aye.
John,
John Bell, aye.
Tim,
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Deborah,
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Betty, Betty Slade, aye. Dale,
Dale Weber, aye.
okay. Congratulations. We'll send an email out to the people tonight. We have I had Deborah do the annual report some time ago. We have to get it in by the 20th of January. And so we're asking for any comments, any changes. Tim?
I would just like to compliment the team that put together this annual report. I think it's a fabulous job, and you guys don't get enough credit.
Yeah. All righty, and the Tim, who else? Somebody just no. Okay, so may I have a vote? Approval
I
of
move we
the,
accept the annual report as written.
okay, second,
Second, Hugh Morton.
vote, Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
Mark,
Mark Schmidt, aye.
John,
John Bell, aye.
Bill,
Bill Weinberg, aye.
Tim,
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Deborah,
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Betty Slade, aye. Dale,
Dale Weber, aye.
okay. There is no, that passes unanimously. There is no correspondence and notifications. The list of bills. There are, again, I'd ask that I read them and you put a hold on them if you want to. Legal services for the Bell School preservation restriction, $710.50. Electrical work at Town Hall, $150,000. The advertising for public hearing on 1/8/2026, $61.50. ADA compliant bathroom at Sanford School, $6,410. There will be more expenditure on that. Clerical expenses for period 9/14 to 12/2025, $694.12. May I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve. John Bell.
I'll second it. Dale.
Second, Dale?
Yep.
Okay, all right, so take a vote. Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
Mark,
Mark Schmidt, aye.
John,
John Bell, aye.
Phil,
Bill Weinberg, aye.
Tim Gillespie,
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Deborah,
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Dale,
Dale Weber, aye.
Betty Slade, aye. That is unanimous. So the next meeting, we are going to have a meeting in February at 6:30, and we are going to discuss the role of liaisons. And we're going to discuss the outstanding projects to give a report on them. Some of you might need for the project managers to come in. If you are not happy with what's going on with your project that hasn't been reported, then ask the project managers to come in and discuss. You have a list. I will send you out a list of the outstanding projects for now. For example, I've heard nothing about the senior league. Nothing's happened with that. See my other data and a few others. So think about what projects that you are responsible for and try to get in touch with the project managers if you have any questions. Anything else?
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Second, Hugh Morton.
Sutton, Hugh Morton. Okay, Hugh,
Hugh Morton, don't want Tim to starve to death.
Thank you.
Mark,
Mark Schmidt, aye.
Don,
John Bell, aye.
Phil,
Bill Weinberg, aye.
Tim Gillespie,
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Deborah,
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Dale,
Dale Weber, aye.
Betty Slade, aye. That's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Good
Congratulations.
night, everybody.